By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to make a narcissist respect you forever. So be sure you stick around till the end of the video because this one is going to be a game changer for you. Let's dive in. Hey friends, Tamie M. Joyce here, Empowerment Life Coach, creator of the Freedom Class and the Ascension Class. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Please take a second to say hello and introduce yourself in the comment section below. And if you're back, welcome back. Thanks for showing up and for tuning in. Either way, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos throughout the week. So let's talk about how to make a narcissist respect you. Now, the harsh reality is that people who land on the spectrum of destructive narcissism aren't actually capable of genuine, functional respect. Even when they're temporarily holding you in high regard, like, for example, at the beginning of the relationship, that so-called high regard will be laced with a spirit of envy, competition, and an underlying contempt. And let's face it, there's nothing healthy or functional about envy and contempt in our relationships, right? But the name of the game here is surviving the relationship that you're currently in and for whatever reason may be unable to extricate yourself from. And if you can do so in a way that inspires even a modicum of respect, however inauthentic, you'll certainly feel more empowered and will undoubtedly be better off. So this video is for the person who, again, for whatever reason, finds themselves unable or unwilling to walk away entirely and chooses to continue to engage with the toxic emotional manipulator and or bully to whatever degree, and wants to do so with as much dignity and grace as possible. Now, if you play your cards right with the narcissist, you may be able to enjoy something resembling respect. But this requires that you be willing to expend the energy necessary to play the game. And it also requires that you be willing to cultivate internally what it is that you want to experience in your external reality. In other words, you have to learn to embody self-esteem and self-respect for any of this to work. And make no mistake, operating from a place of genuine self-esteem, self-love, personal integrity, and self-respect will be a problem if you're dealing with or in any way enmeshed with toxic, insecure people. In other words, your standards aren't likely going to win you any popularity contests with people who prefer to stay steeped in denial or remain enmeshed with really dysfunctional, toxic people, right? It's not necessarily going to go over well when you're the one shining a bright light. I've had this experience many times in my life, and it doesn't make us popular in a certain vibration, in a certain frequency, in a certain environment with a certain ilk of individual. And we've got to be okay with that. The bottom line is, that's not our stuff. It's totally cool. If that's their comfort level, that's their comfort level. It's not for us to judge the good, the bad, the ugly of it. It's for us to be true to the truth of who we are and the life we are creating and who we are becoming. So just do you, stay in your lane, and don't worry about how others receive and perceive you. That doesn't have to be any of our business. But I will say this. If your relationships cannot survive you speaking your truth, respectfully, boundaried, of course, but for example, you being all of you in your personal power, if your relationships cannot survive you being true to the truth of who you are, you're in the wrong room. Now, when it comes to the narcissist and the issue of respect, it's important to understand that underneath the phony facade, narcissists are actually deeply shame-based and insecure people. As such, they have to disrespect you and others in an attempt really to prop themselves up and sustain their false sense of superiority. Now, a really powerful way to deal with this in the moment is to say something like this. You know, you don't have to put me down in order to feel better about yourself. And silence, not another word. Let it land and hold your ground. So let's dive into the nitty-gritty of how to command respect from a narcissist. Number one, be bulletproof. Now, admittedly, this requires that you actually have some healing and recovery under your belt. It's a lot easier to be bulletproof when you're dealing with a toxic, destructive, manipulative bully, for example, when you're not walking around with a bunch of unresolved pain and trauma in your field. So give yourself the gift and actually do the work. Whatever that means for you, there's a lot of ways that this can be done. In addition, you want to decide what it is that you are and are not available for and stick to it, period. You set the standard in your life. You decide. You decide where you draw the line in the sand. You decide what you will and will not put up with. You decide what you're available for. Set the standard in your own life and hold the line. You also want to stop reacting to their nonsense and their BS, right? I'm not saying this is easy. This certainly takes some practice. Again, healing and recovery under our belt can make a big difference, but the more non-reactive we can be in the face of what it is that they typically bring to the table, the easier it's going to be for you to be able to command respect when dealing with someone who lands on the spectrum of destructive narcissism. However inauthentic that respect may be, life will be easier for you. Again, you'll feel more empowered and you'll be much better off. Using the gray rock method can be a really good way to deal with what's coming at you from this type of individual in a very non-reactive way. If you want to learn more about that, you can watch this video here. The bottom line is you want to do whatever you need to do to no longer be an appealing target or a source of narcissistic supply for this individual. Number two, develop self-agency. Now, self-agency is defined as an individual's capacity to act independently and make their own free choices, act from their own free will. In other words, know your mind and trust yourself. If you're not there yet, that's okay. You can get there. It requires taking the time to do the personal work, but you can get there. When you know your mind and you trust yourself, you are developing or have developed self-agency. And people with this kind of healthy self-esteem are far less vulnerable to toxic emotional manipulators and bullies. Number three, be boundaried. Keep your distance emotionally and otherwise. Do not share unnecessarily. Definitely don't overshare or attempt to bond in any way. Don't give these people any ammunition, especially anything they can later use against you. They can and they will. Less is more with these people, always. And whatever you do, never ever show any weakness. Now, comment below and let me know your thoughts to this point. Do you have any questions? Let me know. And if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, there's a link in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. Number 4, limited engagement. Low doses, minimal contact, and maybe even eventually full-blown no contact if that's what's necessary and appropriate. Be prepared to end conversations calmly, respectfully, but we're not going any further with this if and when it's necessary, in particular when you know you're not being heard anyway. Everything you're saying is being twisted and distorted. Nothing you're actually thinking, feeling, or saying is landing. Everything's being turned upside down, inside out. And bottom line is, if you find yourself involved in this type of mind-bending, energy-draining, circular conversation that's going nowhere and nowhere fast, do yourself and everyone else involved a great big huge favor and stop, walk away mid-sentence if you have to. Do what you need to do to take care of you. Allowing them limited access to you is a really good way to go. Last but not least, number 5, self-sovereignty. This is a big one. Maintaining your personal sovereignty. In other words, you don't need them for anything. Now, that might not be your current reality. And if it isn't, that's the goal. That's where you want to get to as quickly as you possibly can. You don't want to be indebted to a narcissist for any reason. Now, maybe depending on the situation, you have something they covet, they want, they need, that's fine. But the reverse, you don't need them for anything. Completely self-sovereign. If you're not there yet, that's where you want to be. Now, you have to be careful with this one for sure, because you can very accidentally trigger narcissistic injury and thus incite narcissistic rage, right? If you accidentally trigger their, fear of abandonment, or, they somehow feel rejected by you, this is never going to go well, because of course, who are you to reject the narcissist, right? So their fragile little egos, it doesn't take much. I can tell you, you want to be careful. Sometimes we can't avoid this, and it is what it is, and the fallout is what it is, and it's not our stuff, and it's going to be what it's going to be. But to the best of your ability, if you can sidestep that, you're always going to be better off, right? Now, the thing about this is, narcissists are often so delusional in their false sense of superiority and all of this egotistical delusion of grandeur going on, that they will often feel that it's ever so disrespectful of you to not hang out and allow them to continue to disrespect you, gossip about you behind your back, smear you, shred you to smithereens the way they do whoever happens to not be in the room at the time, right? And all their little flying monkeys and little minions enjoy participating in this as well. That is more often than not the situation that we're dealing with. So the more sovereign you can be in terms of not being indebted, you don't need them for anything, you're good, you're completely independent, the whole lot easier it's going to be for you to navigate these tricky dynamics, preferably eventually, if not sooner rather than later, navigate your way right out of the dynamic altogether. Always going to be our best bet, no contact with this type of individual, in my opinion and experience. But suffice to say, that's not always possible, right? So when it's not possible, the goal is to be sovereign to the best of your ability. You don't want to be indebted. You don't need them for anything. You're standing on your own 2 feet, completely adulting, and you're good. My friends, I hope you got some value out of this today. If you liked what you heard, remember to drop a like and a comment. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was. And again, if you're new to my channel, a great big huge welcome. Very happy to have you here. Be sure to introduce yourself in the comment section below. Say hello. My team and I do read all the comments, so make sure you say a quick hi and let us know where you're tuning in from. And once again, if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, there is a link in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. And as always, I will leave you with this. Know your value and unlock your freedom. Mwah. Much love. Bye for now.